So, who was on Capitol Hill today? Was it the acting Attorney General of the United States of America? Or, as one Democratic lawmaker put it today, was it Donald Trump's consigliere? Todd Blanche came under withering questioning from Democrats over the wholesale replacement of the Department of Justice's 150-plus-year-old mission of upholding the rule of law in this country and around the world, with instead doing the bidding of an aspiring autocrat named Donald J. Trump. A key focus today, that $1.8 billion settlement funded by our money, taxpayer dollars. Our taxpayer dollars will now be used to compensate people who claim to have been wronged by the Justice Department, the so-called victims of weaponization. Here's Senator Van Hollen on that.
This is an outrageous, unprecedented slush fund that you set up. Simple question. Will individuals who assaulted Capitol Hill police officers be eligible for this fund?
Well, as it makes plain, anybody is...
Just let me know if they're eligible for the fund.
As was made plain yesterday, anybody in this country is eligible to apply if they believe they were victim of weaponization.
Mr. Attorney General, let me ask you this. Are there going to be rules that say that if you've assaulted a Capitol Hill police officer or committed a violent crime, you will not be eligible? Why not make that a rule?
I expect that, because I'm not one of the commissioners setting up the rules, I expect that there will be rules.
You're appointing 4 of the 5 members, aren't you, Mr. Attorney General?
Pardon me?
You're appointing 4 of the 5 members.
I am appointing all 5 members.
Set up. There's also an individual who, after being pardoned by the president, went on to molest 2 children. And that person actually tried to buy the silence of these children by saying that he would pay them some of the funds that he was hoping to get from your slush fund. Can you commit to making the rule so that that person is not eligible for a payout under this fund?
Well, you're obviously lying in your question, because there's no way that this person committed to that. The slush fund, as you call it, which is not, didn't exist.
I'm certainly
but I can commit.
Mr. Attorney General, don't ever do that again. I am reporting what he said. He said on the expectation that he hoped to get some of the funds from a payout. He's been hearing
you said from the slush fund, Senator, and that didn't exist when he said that.
This is the fund that the president and all of you have been telegraphing all along that you're going to use to help the president's friends.
Can you point to a single telegraph I made? What telegraph did I
have a last question for you. Do you know that it is a criminal offense to lie to Congress?
I am very well aware of that.
I'm glad to hear that.
A couple headlines there. Blanche acknowledging it is a slush fund, and we'll use his quotes if he'd like us to, but also suggesting that the child molester who was convicted for the crime of telling the child he molested that there was money coming to him in restitution didn't even know, couldn't have even known about the slush fund. The person that Senator Van Hollen was asking Todd Blanche about is named Andrew Paul Johnson. He's right now, as we come on the air, right now his status is this. He's serving a sentence of life in prison for molesting minors. NPR reports this about him. Police reported that man, Johnson, 45, tried to keep the children quiet by telling them he would share the millions of dollars in restitution money he expected to receive from the Trump administration in connection with his January 6 case, end quote. At one point, as part of his bungling defense of the slush fund, Todd Blanche suggested that anybody, any Republican, any Democrat in this country could apply for money if they, quote, believe they were victims. Watch that.
It is true that this is unusual. That is true. But it is not unprecedented, and it was done to address something that had never happened again either. So there is an unprecedented nature of what we did yesterday in response to years and years of weaponization. Just to correct a few things, Senator, it's not limited to Republicans. It's not limited to Biden.
It was.
It's not limited. It's not limited to the Biden weaponization. It's not limited to, in any way, scope or form to January 6 or to Jack Smith. There's no limitation on the on the claims.
Okay, so with that stipulated, is former director of the FBI, Jim Comey, eligible? His team argued that he was the victim of a vindictive and selective prosecution. What about New York's Attorney General Tish James? What about the Southern Poverty Law Center or Act Blue, or the 6 members of Congress who were investigated for simply saying out loud, on camera, that the men and women of the United States military swore an oath not to follow any illegal orders? They have good claims, or your handpicked 5 commissioners going to grant their claims? I doubt. So in a world where Todd Blanche picks, as he said, he corrected the questioner, it wasn't just 4 members, it's all 5 of the commissioners who make the decisions, we can safely rule that out. This is also the same Todd Blanche who claims that there's evidence that Bill Barr couldn't find, or Brad Raffensperger, or any of the other Trump allies who looked really hard, that the 2020 election was indeed rigged. This is the same Todd Blanche who served as Donald Trump's defense attorney, the same Todd Blanche who now cannot definitively say if violent felons who assaulted cops will receive money from the quote slush fund. Here's what happened when Todd Blanche was pressed again about ensuring that money from taxpayers does not go to the most violent insurrectionists.
Will you agree to encourage those commissioners to set a guideline that compensation will not go to individuals who are convicted of assaulting police officers?
I expect...
Just a yes would answer my question, or a no.
A yes will not answer that question. I mean, you're asking whether I will encourage. I don't think that's a fair word. I don't think it's the Attorney General's job to encourage commissioners to do or not do anything.
Bar, forbid, ban, rule out. Change the word. Hours after that testimony wrapped up on Capitol Hill, news broke that the Department of Justice expanded its settlement with Donald Trump. A one-page document signed by, you guessed it, that guy, Todd Blanche, and posted on the Justice Department website, bars the IRS from ever pursuing an audit of Donald Trump or his family businesses. 407 will be eagerly awaiting the release of Donald Trump's taxes now that we know he can never, ever, ever be audited. That was his excuse back in 2016 for not releasing them. Politico and the New York Times were the first to report the news about the document. The Justice Department did not provide comment on the document to either news organization. The acting head of the Justice Department up on Capitol Hill, facing withering questions about Donald Trump's attempt to turn the office of the presidency into a personal piggy bank funded by the American taxpayer, is where we begin today with some of our most favorite reporters and friends. Justice and Intelligence reporter Ken Delaney is here. Also joining us, former Department of Justice pardon attorney Liz Oyer is here. She was fired by Trump's Department of Justice after refusing to reinstate actor Mel Gibson's gun rights. And with me at the table, back at the table for the hour, our friend Andrew Weissman's here. We're so glad you're here.
I'm so glad to be here.
I'm so excited to talk about the book. The new book is called Liar's Kingdom. It's so important. It's so good. It's so timely. It's about how to stop Trump's deceit and save America. We deal with lying. We deal with gaslighting. We'll pull that thread all hour, and then we'll dive into the book
Great.
a little bit later on. I want to ask you about Todd Blanche's performance today. And there were actually a lot of guys. It's like a 3-ring circus, right? Vance was in one ring, Blanche on the other. The problem with performing for an audience of one, which is what they're all trained to do, motivated to do, is that the answers sound ridiculous.
Right. I mean, that is the reason he could not say, we are not going to give money to violent felons. If you remember, before the inauguration, you had the vice president, Ann Pam Bondi, suggesting, well, don't worry, we're going to do a triage of the January 6th defendants to suggest that the violent ones would not get a pardon. Well, they got ahead of their skis because everyone got a pardon. And so here you see Todd Blanche not being able to even say that minimally decent thing. But I think I'd like to step back one step to this. The entire thing is built on, in my view, a lie. I mean, the entire predicate for this is that there needs to be a fund because of the weaponization of the Biden Justice Department in going after people who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. We saw it with our own eyes. Those people, there was no weaponization. Those people got due process. They either pleaded guilty or they were found guilty by a jury, or they were awaiting trial. That is not weaponization. That is
Mitch
the justice
McConnell
system.
actually justifies not convicting Donald Trump in his impeachment trial by saying he should be adjudicated by the justice system.
Exactly. So this is all predicated on something that they're just pretending, oh, of course, all those people were victimized. I would remind people, we saw with our own eyes the crime. And even with all of that abundant evidence, these people were given due process, the rule of law, and there was an adjudication. What is happening now is these people are being told, if you commit crimes for Donald Trump, not only will you get a pardon, but you now have the prospect of cashing in on your crimes. What is the deterrent effect now going forward when you've created this paid army with criminal impunity? Because there will not only be no criminal repercussions, there's a reward for what they're doing. This is gobsmacking, and the person who is announcing this and defending it is the head of what is our Justice Department.